Matthew 13:44. The kingdom of heaven is like treasure hidden in a field. When a man found it, he hid it again, and then in his joy went and sold all he had and bought that field. Today we explore a brief but powerful parable from Matthew 13:44. Though it is only one verse, it contains a depth of meaning about the kingdom of heaven. Jesus uses the image of a hidden treasure to teach us something about the incomparable value of God's kingdom. This single verse is full of mystery, joy, sacrifice, and commitment. Let's dig deeper into its meaning and see how it applies to our lives today. The parable begins with a simple but intriguing image, a treasure hidden in a field. Think about this for a moment. In Jesus' time, there were no banks or safety deposit boxes. People often buried their valuables for safekeeping. Sometimes these treasures were forgotten or lost, waiting to be rediscovered. This treasure represents the kingdom of heaven, God's reign, His presence, and the life we are invited to live in relationship with Him. It's something of immeasurable worth, yet it is not always apparent at first glance. Often, people live their lives without realizing that God's kingdom is right in front of them, waiting to be discovered. Jesus is reminding us that the kingdom of God, though hidden to many, is something incredibly valuable and worth searching for. When the man finds this hidden treasure, his response is immediate and powerful. He recognizes its value and, in joy, hides it again and goes to sell everything he owns so he can buy the field. The key word here is joy. Finding the treasure fills the man with such joy that he is willing to give up everything for it. This joy is not about material wealth, but about something far greater. It's the joy of discovering life with God. Imagine the moment when someone truly experiences the love of God for the first time. It's a moment of transformation where nothing else seems to matter but being close to God. This joy drives us to make sacrifices that seem radical to others, but are entirely worth it to us. The sacrifice. What does the man do next? He sells all that he has to purchase the field. This tells us that acquiring the kingdom of heaven involves a cost. It's not that we can buy our way into God's kingdom, but we must be willing to let go of everything else in order to embrace it fully. For this man, there was no hesitation in selling all he had because he knew that the treasure far surpassed the value of his possessions. In the same way, the call of Jesus requires us to let go of lesser things that we often cling to, whether it's our comfort, our pride, or even material wealth. Jesus challenges us to re-examine what we hold dear. Are we holding on to things that are preventing us from fully living in the joy of God's kingdom? The sacrifice might seem great, but when we realize the value of the treasure, we see that no sacrifice is too big. This parable is an invitation for each of us. Jesus is telling us that the kingdom of heaven is like a hidden treasure waiting to be found, and the joy of finding it is worth everything we might give up. The beauty of this treasure is that it's available to anyone who seeks it. No matter where you are in life, God's kingdom is open to you. The question is, are we willing to search for it? And when we find it, to let go of everything else to embrace it fully. How do we live this out today? It starts with seeking God with all our hearts. Jeremiah 29:13 says, "You will seek me and find me when you seek me with all your heart." We are invited to live with the same passion as the man in the parable, constantly seeking God and His kingdom. We must also be willing to let go of anything that competes with God for first place in our lives. Whether it's our plans, desires, or even our anxieties, we are called to trust that what God offers us in His kingdom is worth far more than anything we might give up. In our everyday lives, this means prioritizing our relationship with God, being generous with our time and resources, and living in a way that reflects the joy and peace that come from knowing Christ. Brothers and sisters, the kingdom of heaven is the greatest treasure we could ever find. Jesus is calling us to seek it, discover its value, and embrace it with joy. It may require sacrifice, but the reward is incomparable. A life with God, now and forever. As we go through our daily lives, let us remember the man who found the treasure in the field. Let his joy and willingness to give up everything inspire us to do the same as we pursue God's kingdom with all our hearts.